Do you want me to take the attendance, or do you want me to just write everyone's names, or do you want to do it now because it's past 9:15?
Yeah, we can do it now.
Okay.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I'll just do it now. I'll just write everybody down. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Shall I go ahead? I can go ahead, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, does everybody see this pipeline page on your computer screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hector, are you here?
Yeah.
I know, I want him to say something. Hector?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I just wanted to say something additional to you. Hector came early because he had to square away some things. He was having trouble with his computer. So Hector, thank you for coming early. That's what I want you to do. Class starts at 9 and I will be here at 8:30 every day. So if you have some kind of issue, your computer's not working, you have to go somewhere, it's really nice if you can come a few minutes before 9 and let me know. So Hector's new student was late, came right, did right what he was supposed to do. So thanks, Hector, that was good.
So if somebody comes late, Monica, after 20 minutes, and he came at 25 minutes later, does he count as he attended class, or he's like no credit, no like 0?
Well, that's probably my call, right, Monica?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for
and and I'm pretty loose that way because, you know, especially at the beginning. So I'm not going to be really strict on that. But on the other hand, we really want you to try because you miss stuff. That's why we have the recording. So for some reason you can't get here on time, you can always catch up that 15, 20, 25 minutes on the recording.
Okay.
So don't get in the habit of it or don't do it because you think you have that leeway. But I'm flexible, but if I find out, you know, someone's being lazy or goofing around, I'm not so flexible. Okay, so we're at this pipeline page. And I was just going to go to Canvas, but it's kind of nice to just go over it from the beginning for you guys. So we're going to go to Canvas. Anybody new can see that on your home pipeline page, there's that little upper right Canvas red circle. So we're going to go to that, if my computer works. Then it gets you to the dashboard for the Canvas, and your class is this pink one. Go to that. Okay, so now we're into that Canvas shell. And so the recordings are under announcements. See on the left, announcements in red? Press that. And so it has a home page. It's got another class for the home page, but the information is not important. So I decided not to take the time to revise it. I may if I over the break, but it also has the recordings. So it's got, we interrupted that first day. So it's got, it stops and starts again. So you have to record both. So both of those are here. So you just click on it and then it goes to the YouTube, click again. And we're into that first day. Remember Val started out, she's gonna, okay, so, well, I started out. I need to go to, I can't get out of here because everything's covering what I need to go.
On my name and then make co-host, if that'll help you.
So I go to participants, which is there.
The arrow at the top, the arrow on the right, it should list all the participants. And then after my name, you could put the 3 dots.
Okay, I think we're good, yeah?
Okay, someone's asking in the chat, could you show that one more time, how you access the video from there?
Okay.
You don't have to turn the video on, but just show how you got to the video.
Yeah, okay. Okay, let me get there. You know, it's funny, I've got mine set up so I can't, it goes directly to the email, so I've got to go the long way. Okay, here we go. So everybody on this page, especially the person who wanted to repeat. So when you get into pipeline, this is the home page. And It's got emails. So check that every day, because occasionally I will send you an email. Also know, everybody, that if you have something personal you want to talk to me about and you don't want to do it over the Canvas where everybody's listening, feel free to mail me on my email. It's a little more private. Okay. So you got email, and then the other one we're going to use on this bar is Canvas. It's right there. Just click on that icon, and then you go to this, all the Canvas classes, and your class, this class is the pink one. It's CTV NCO. It's kind of an awkward name, but that's the name of this class. This is Rodney's class over here. Why I have it on my thing, I've told them to take it off, but they can't do it. So we live with this stuff. So then you go to this page, and then you want to go to announcements. Second one, everybody see that on the left-hand tab. And then this has all the recordings. Today's recording will appear up here tomorrow. Okay? All right. Yeah, you want to see it again?
No, it wasn't that so much as, I've been using, I'm trying to figure out, I think it's like Google Calendar, because that tells me, well, it shows the line as to what time it is and what time the classes are. And I usually use that link to join the classes.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta stop sharing. I'm sorry. Say it. Yeah, so you're just sharing that information to the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't go over the calendar. That was on that tab next to the Canvas, because I don't use it myself. The school's trying to get us to use Google, but I find it more complicated, one more system to learn. It's got its difficult points if you really get into it. But a lot of teachers at SBC do the whole Google thing, and they use that calendar. So check it out. And if that's easy for you to maneuver around, it is a good calendar. So you can do that and get all your classes and appointments squared away. Okay. Thanks, Israel, for sharing that. Any more questions? Boy, you guys are
I think if you have a lot of, like, for this example, for this back to work program, if you have a lot of different Zoom links, like every day, and it changes every few weeks, the calendar is really handy because it'll update it. If you upload Emma's calendar, you should get the Zoom links all in one place. So it might be easier for the students, if you know how to use Google Calendar, to use that to access your Zoom links. And you're going to 3 different classes a day or something, so it's kind of easier.
Yeah. If try it. If that sounds good, try it. Go to that spot. If you have trouble, when you come back, let's see, what's today? Wednesday. Yeah, tomorrow in Rodney's class, you can ask Monica to help you explain it to you. And she'll do it at a break or sometime tomorrow. But try it tonight on your own. Most of you guys are pretty savvy computer-wise, and you'll figure it out right away. But, if you have trouble, Monica will help you tomorrow. I like to let them fool around first. That's how everybody learns anyway. But Monica's the pro here, so she'll help you. Okay, Carla's joined us. That's great. Yeah. Okay, so now I got to go to my lesson plan. And okay, so we're gonna look at a video of a carpenter's framing a house, and the name of it's Framing in 60 Minutes, Framing a House in 60 Minutes. Obviously, you can't do that, so it's a time lapse. They speeded it up. And I don't want you guys to even look at 60 minutes. Can you imagine? We'd all be asleep at the end. But so I'm gonna show some of it. I'll skip to some of it later on. So be aware that I'm gonna skip around just to give you a sample. But I want you to look for a couple things. Okay. I want you to look at the tools that are used. And remember, I showed you some of the tools Monday, I got my tool belt on and I showed you some of the electric tools. I know it was quick and you may not remember all of it, but when you look at it, try to notice the tools that are being used and also notice the processes, what people are doing. You know, they may be sawing, they may be lifting up a wall, they may be nailing. So we're going to have a discussion afterwards and I'll ask you what you noticed. So, so do that while we're watching it. Everybody understand that? I'll take that as a yes. So, oh, thumbs up. Great. Okay, so Louis gave me a thumbs up. That's fine. So a thumbs up or yes would be a great answer if you hear my question. You know, teachers depend on feedback from the students because we don't want to go on unless everybody's on the same page. So, okay, let me set up that video and we'll start with that. So hang in there a minute. No, we don't want that. Oh yeah.
One of the that were tied at the bottom. And that we have. What?
Okay, does everybody see this screen?
Yes.
So I forgot to mention, I'm an older person, as you all have noticed, and I use a pencil and paper to write things. I don't just get my phone out and record it on the phone. And just a note of caution, when you're dealing with older people that lived a whole life without computers and cell phones, they like to write things. And if they're dictating something to you, telling you something, and they have to wait for you to put it in your phone, it takes longer than writing, they're going to get upset. They're going to say, hey, hurry up. I'm not here all day. Just realize that. So unless you're super fast at with your thumbs at typing on your phone. But I would get for me, I would have a pencil and paper or a pen and paper ready each day when you come to class. I didn't tell you, so don't worry about that. You're in your home, so you can probably get one. We're going to do some math problems later on, so you will need the pencil and paper. So, but also when you see the stuff on the thing that I ask you to look for, you might want to jot down notes because your memory may not be good that you can remember all of it. Okay? Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's go with this video here.
To know where to invest $1,000 right now?
Not
Hi,
this
Rex
part.
Moore with The Motley Fool. And if you know us,
So I'm going to gloss this. They're unloading the lumber. The slab's already been poured.
Got Quentin going nuts, cleaning up all of our threads on our bolts. We're gonna go around and straighten all those right now. How are they, Quentin? Oh, beautiful. Now the goal is to get these things
So the
as straight
framers
as
come
possible.
on the job site.
Make it
and they
easy
have to
when we
make
frame.
sure the concrete work was done right. Sometimes these are crooked. So this guy's straightening up the hole.
So we want these things as straight as possible for when we plate. That way everything works out good. We'll drill our holes, they'll line up perfectly, drop down. When they're crooked, it's a pain to work with.
They double check the dimensions, make sure they're right. Sorry. So this is the slab, so it's gonna take, they're gonna put this treated wood because water can come up to concrete and water gets into the wood, it will rot it. So we have pressure treated, it's got a chemical that keeps it from rotting. They're gonna put that everywhere on the bolt. And then they're gonna build the walls on that. So I'm gonna skip this ahead, okay? Whoa. When do they build those walls? Hold on.
That jumped ahead.
Jump too far ahead.
Too far.
Okay. So now they've got the plates already. So now they're going to build the walls. That's what all these stacks of lumber are. Okay, hold on. I wonder if there's sound for this. Probably not in the speedy part, huh?
I think you turned off the sound on the video.
Yeah, click on the little speaker with the X through it at the bottom. There you go.
Taking off the shirt is mandatory on a hot day.
So, Monica, can you let people take off? Can you do that?
What'd you say?
Can you let people in?
I'm not a host. I can't. Is somebody in the waiting room?
Yeah, I guess. Normally you wouldn't have a screen wall. Some people have access.
Over there wrapped up. We just have the garages to do and we'll be done. Wrap this thing in OSB and we're ready for a floor system. Day one though, for it being a Saturday and a short day, we did good. Bye guys.
Okay, after they get the walls all up, then they're gonna put plywood on the outside. It's called sheet. Framers do that too. Notice how the boards go on vertically. Whenever I say you can put them on vertically, all my colleagues say, oh no,
I can't hear you, babe. Patrick.
Yes.
It's hard to hear your voice when the video has the sound on. You might want to turn the sound off of the video and then talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the
There you go.
you don't need to hear the music and
We don't need the sound of the nail gun. We'd rather hear you
guys,
talk.
often what they talk about is not that great anyway. Sometimes it's even wrong, so we're probably better just watching. So you put the sheathing on the plywood and then you cut the window openings, obviously.
So what do you call that thing? The frame?
Router, this tool?
No, the thing they just put it on after the frame.
Plywood.
The sheathing.
Yeah.
Sheathing, he said.
The what?
Did you say sheathing?
Yeah, I'll spell it for you later. Sheathing.
Okay.
S-H-E-A-T-H-I-N-G. I'll write it for you. It's an old English word. Doesn't make any sense, but it's a great view. You get the sawdust in the face.
I think he's using a GoPro on a
Yeah.
forehead on his hat to
Yeah.
film this whole video.
Yeah, I know, it's cool. You know, it's either that or they actually have, you know, what do they call the flying drones? That's so integrated into all events now. Surfing, they get great surfing pictures because they can have a drone right over the waves, you know, the 60-foot waves. Because you don't want to be out there with a camera, right?
Right.
What tool is he using to cut the windows
Oh,
out?
that's a router. We haven't talked about that, so that's called
Router.
I'll spell that for you too. Router, like to route, a route. Not everybody uses those. I use a Sawzall, that reciprocating saw to cut this stuff, or a skill saw. The nice thing about a router is it's got a sleeve that backs up against the studs, so you don't need to pay attention to where they are. When you have a saw, you have to kind of lay it out. Okay, we've seen that. More walls. Notice how they lift them up and put them on over the bolts. Oh, give me a break. We don't want any. They're going to lift it up. They're going to lift up and lay them over those bolts there. Notice how these walls, they're notched. They leave this top plate short there, and then they can lap the other one over it. We'll talk about that later.
What kind of wood they use? Like, what is the name of the frame?
Okay, so this wood up here is called Douglas fir. In Southern California, that's what we use for framing. It's a softwood, but it's harder than most softwoods. Back east and in the north, they might use spruce from Canada, but we use Douglas fir, sometimes hemlock. And then the things on the bottom are also Douglas fir, the green boards, but they've been in a factory, they've been infused with poison to kill the little microbes that cause rot. So it's called treated wood. Pressure treated because they pressure the insecticide into the wood. See how that's green? Okay. They're putting more beams in, special beams and headers. We don't need to. So sometimes on a job, you use screws.
Nuts.
Yeah, I've had my nuts today. Get out of here. Okay. Sometimes they'll use hardware that takes screws. So you need a screw gun, you know, an electric drill that works as a screw gun to screw these in. Used to be all we used was nails, but it's changed. Now they've got better screws. They finally discovered to make stronger screws, and now there's a lot of work with a screw gun. This looks like a garage door right here. Big opening. So, no, maybe not. There's a wall. I don't know what this is. We'll see. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it's a garage door. So they're putting, see how wide it is? Putting a big beam. They have to have a crane for that.
In the last scene on the Sawzall, you could see that they'd used a piece of wood to wedge the guard in position so that they didn't have to manually do it.
On the skill saw, on the saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's illegal. If OSHA, the safety regulators come out to your job site and see guards up, sometimes they take guards off, carpenters. Really dangerous. They'll fine you $1,000 and fine your boss more money.
Damn.
But people do it and they just be careful. You know, there's so many houses, OSHA can only get to a few, so people take a chance. I worked in Colorado once on a mountain, overlooking Aspen, and we could see the inspector truck coming up. So we would have our guards pinned up, and then when they came, we'd take the pencils out of them. But I don't recommend it, because when that guard's not there, that blade is free to cut anything around. If it's not in wood, the guard covers the blade, and if it hits your body somehow, it won't cut you. But if you don't have a guard and you happen to brush that saw next to your body, you can cut yourself. I've cut my knees that way. You don't want to do that. So
I've seen the extension cord get cut because people weren't paying attention.
exactly. Good point. Extension cords. Sometimes they'll lay them down and the saw blade will hit the ground and the saw will spin around. Could cut anything in sight. That's not a good practice. Sometimes bosses may require you to do it, and then you have to kind of decide whether you want to keep working there or not. So these are special kind of joists. We'll talk about joists later. They look like eyes. There's a piece on top and on bottom, and then there's plywood or this stuff in between. It's kind of a more recent type of building material. I don't know how much we'll get into it. Maybe. But you guys are asking pretty sophisticated questions, so some of you, can understand this stuff. So I'll have to decide what.
The roof they're putting is still wood or metal?
Yeah, this is a metal hanger. You can see the top of them here. And when you can put joists on top of beams and walls, like here it's just on top, or you can hang them from places. When you hang them, you have to have these special hangers. They're called joist hangers. They're just hard.
How do you decide how many these you needed for a house?
How do you decide?
Like how many that straight pad lines you needed?
The building engineers and the design plans dictate.
They will tell you how many you should
Yeah.
put it on.
The plans will tell you everything. Since I started carpentry until today, so many people have sued architects and contractors that the plans now are so detailed that if you follow them, there's no way you can get sued. It's unfortunate that we live in a country that's so lawsuit happy, but they specify everything. The type of hangers, the type of wood, the blueprint will have everything on it. So, good question. Okay, let's move on. Oh yeah, so they're putting the sheathing on. This is the next floor, the attic. We don't know how tall this building is. So after these joists, they're going to put these 4x8 sheets, and we'll talk about that. That's part of framing. Framers do that as well. Boy, you notice the pencil in the guard? This guy's holding he's got a big beam saw, so you definitely don't want to do that.
Oh, that'll cut right through your leg.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what I was going to say. If you use a beam saw and it cuts your leg, it's going to cut your leg off. That's not a good thing. Okay. So you have to go around and do blocks and there's a lot of little detail work when you're framing. We'll talk about that when we, there's another crane.
More nuts?
More nuts. Possibly. No, visit us for something. Now this is the roof now. They've got the ceiling joist on, and the roof, well, they don't have a ceiling joist. These are factory made pieces. You can see they've got little metal cleats.
I built those.
Hey, it's somebody in this class that worked at, who just said that. Who was that?
That was me. I've built those. Those are still
who's me?
Francisco Garcia. I'm sorry.
Who?
Francisco Garcia.
Francisco, yeah. Yeah, I mentioned that I had someone in my class last night that worked at the truss factory. So you made these kinds of things, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell that they use the staple gun to put the metal plates in place, and they usually have like a top roller on the table. It
Yeah,
gets pushed out through a main roller that applies pressure on both sides,
yeah.
so that the steel plates hold the joints together.
And do they nail them? What did you say they were? The plates were what do they call those metal pieces?
We just they're metal steel plates.
Yeah,
They
plates.
come in variants of like 1.5 by 4 to like 12 by 16s.
Right.
Um,
And you nail those in, and you gun nail those in?
no, it depends on the facility. You
Yeah,
can hammer them in
yeah,
and then have the roller pass over it,
yeah.
or you can use a staple gun to just keep it in place for, like, say, the smaller trusses or the
Right. And
jacks
then
or
the roller
rafters.
just makes them
Yeah,
together.
you can see the staples
Yeah,
right over the plates.
right.
That's what they use to hold them down.
Okay, great. So a truss has the ceiling joist, which if you don't know what that is, we're going to study that. That's the bottom piece where they can put the ceiling on, the drywall. And then it also has the rafter, which is the what the roof goes on. So it's they're usually triangular. These are curved. They're usually triangular pieces, and they have all kinds of designs depending on how your roof shaped. This is a fairly complicated one. It's got some round top chords.
I think I could probably find the specs for specific types of trusses and upload them if you want.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When we get to the roof, which is toward the end, we've got what? How many classes? 8 classes? 4 classes? 4 classes.
And I've also got trusses of the built. Well, I've got pictures of the built stacks of trusses
okay.
as well.
Yeah. So before they invented trusses, which are factory made roofing members, we did all this by hand. We just had wood and we did it on the job, and they still do roofs by hand. It's about half by hand and half by trusses now, because simple roofs you can do easily by hand. This would take a little more time, but when you send the plans to a truss company, they will do everything. They will make it all just from your blueprints, so you don't have to think about it. But you do have to pay money. They charge a lot to do that for you.
Those little pieces that they're marking up are about like $35, $40 a piece.
Wow. Yeah. So a lot of bracing, this is a fairly complicated, this is a hip on the side here. You know, when they make a video like this, even though it's speeded up, they probably go through it a couple of times, make sure they're doing it right. Now you can kind of see the overall design of the roof. I can't tell. This center part's round, but then it's got these vertical pieces, so I can't tell yet. Let's go ahead and see if we can see it. Is that round? Maybe that's round. Yeah, maybe it is. This is called a parapet wall. So it goes round up to this wall. And then on the inside, it's flat. So, you know, maybe that's a rooftop.
Balcony?
Yeah.
Like, it's like a rooftop deck, like a 3rd floor deck or something, because there's
Yeah.
stairs going up.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it. It's the very, very top because there's no water runoff area, because otherwise
Well,
it's just
not
gonna
yet,
pool up.
but they may have, it may be tilted and they may have, they may be putting holes for downspouts later. I thought the same thing. I didn't see any draining, but they would do that later. So see, from the inside, you just see flat roof, flat ceiling, I mean, everywhere. So that's pretty cool, huh? That's what a frame looks like when they're done. Then after this, the electricians come in and drill holes and run their wires along the wall. Plumbers come in and put their pipes in the wall. Then the insulators come and put insulation in the wall. Then the sheetrockers come and put sheetrock over the wall. And then the painters come and paint the wall. And then you move in after the floor.
Tile.
So framing's a lot of fun. It's like Legos, you know, everything kind of fits together and it's very neat. A lot of people prefer that to finish work like what Rodney teaches.
Patrick, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there any sort of waterproofing on that ceiling right now, or is that after?
You mean the roof?
Yeah, on the roof.
No, it's just, from what I saw, it was just the framers would only do the covering, so it just had the plywood on it. The roofers will come and the framers have to cut holes and make the drain things, but the roof guys will come and put the waterproof material and whatever final roofing. Roofs like that are usually hot mopped.
So if it were to rain, like a storm in that situation, would it get ruined or?
Yes, great question. Luis, was that you?
Yes.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it might do some damage because you don't want this stuff here to get wet. They used to make this board that had a wax side on it that would protect from that, but people slipped on the roofs. People slipped on that wax, so they stopped doing that. It became a safety issue. So now they're not waxed and it will absorb water. And if it's a heavy rain, it would really wreck things. So if they leave it, they're going to put tarps over it, something temporarily to keep the water away.
Oh, okay.
Until the roofers get there. You know, when you do a regular roof, you put black felt paper on it. You know, that's the first thing that goes on the sheathing. And carpenters do that. Before they leave, they will put that paper on. They may be doing that there too, if it takes that. It's hard to tell. But if the roof's going to just have black paper on it, you know, it's asphalt impregnated paper, so it's waterproof, then the roofing material, say shingles, goes over that. The framers would put that to make sure it doesn't get rain before the roofers get there. This roof, it's hard to tell what they're going to do with it. So if they were going to hot mop it, which means they come in and they boil asphalt and they lay down liquid asphalt, then you wouldn't put the paper down first. So it's hard to tell what they're going to use. And they have new products now too, where they don't even need to hot mop. So, you know, we don't know.
I used to live in a house that had that hot mopped roofing. It was a Spanish style house built in the 19-teens.
Yes.
With stucco walls.
Yes.
And it baked in the summer and it was freezing in the winter.
Yeah. Did it leak any?
No, but I remember me being on the roof having to tear that shit out.
Yeah. No fun.
It was hard.
Yeah. So that's I forget what they call that style, but it comes from New Mexico and maybe Mexico originally. But it's the roof has those little walls that come up above the roof, and so all you see is kind of a square top, and then it drops down, and you have a roof inside. And because the water has to get out, they have to put little drains on the side that go through the roof. And the problem with those roofs, and you're right, in the early 1900s, they did several, that was the style that they did in Santa Barbara and around. You know, it's Hispanic, it's probably Mexican rather than Spanish, but, you know, it probably came up from Mexico. But they put that hot mop on a slope. But the slope, you know, the minimum slope legally has to be 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch to a foot. And that's not enough because when they go back and keep hot mopping, you know, over the years.
It fills it in.
It fills it in, it becomes flat, and then the water stands and then it leaks. So when I tell people building those roads, I said, oh no, put a bigger slope on it than that. Put a more radical slope. So yeah. So even though a lot of you won't understand these questions and comments, some of you have more experience, I still want to answer them just to make it have a conversation. So just be patient with people that have more experience. Okay, so let's talk about that. What time is it getting to be?
So how long would that actually take? Not that whole video. How
Not
like
60 minutes, yeah.
not 60 minutes. How long would that take in real life?
Well, it depends on the crew and the experience. That crew is pretty experienced. That guy, I listened to him. He's done a lot of those houses. So depending on how many people he has there working, that makes a big difference. That could be done in a few days to a week. It would take a smaller crew with less experience a little bit longer, but they don't mess around. You know, that one day he talked about it. He had 3 walls up, you know. Second day puts the first 4 walls up. Third day he's putting the ceiling and the next floor walls up. So yeah, a week at the shortest and maybe 2 weeks.
How long do you wait for inspections in between, or do you not?
Well, let me think for a second. I don't think the framing, there's any inspection except the framing inspection. So when they get done framing, they call the inspector before anything else is done, like electrical or plumbing.
Is that a long process to get them out there?
It can be. If you're in LA where there's a lot of people, it can be. Santa Barbara's not too bad. But that's a great question because time is money. And if you have to wait for inspectors, you can't continue building. But they try to accommodate. This area is pretty good because we're smaller. Great. These are great questions, you guys. Yeah, so inspections are part of framing. The carpenters aren't too concerned, but the foreman on the job, the supervisor, he has to know when he can get the inspectors and stuff. So, okay, so in terms of, all of you can answer these questions. So in terms of the tools used, let's talk about that because that's pretty obvious. So what did people see on there? We saw the router because Monica asked what it was. So the router to cut out the window. So that was one tool. Anybody else?
Skill saw.
Skill saw, that's always on a job site. That's how you cut the
Electrical nail gun.
I'm sorry, one at a time, what?
Nail gun.
Nail gun, yeah, good, yeah. Yeah, so nail guns and skill saws are always on a framing site. No two ways. Anything else?
Measuring tape.
Yeah, hand tools, measuring tape. What, Francisco, is that what you said? Or?
No, I was just gonna mention that most of the tools that they had were cordless.
Yes, great point. So used to be nail guns had cords, and they went to a what do you call it?
Compressor.
Compressor. Thank you. They went to an air compressor, but now they have nail guns that have gas cartridges in them, and so they're like batteries. I don't know if they may have battery powered ones now too, because batteries are getting very strong. And you don't need to, with a cord, it's always in the way. You have to drag it around. And when you're up on the roof, you have to make sure that you don't catch the cord and pull yourself off the roof. But so they've made a lot of advances with nail guns. Good observation, Francisco. Yeah, so that, and let's see, skill saws. They also have cordless skill saws and saws, but often people don't use them because they use up the batteries pretty quick. And so you'd be changing batteries or gas cartridges fast. So often, were there cords for the skill saw? Did you notice?
There weren't any. Like almost everything was cordless minus the nail gun.
Yeah. So companies, do it different ways depending on how much money they have to spend on tools and how many people there are and how big a company it is. If it's a big company and they have a lot of money, and they, like this company wasn't big, but they obviously were pretty experienced, then they might have cordless tools. Any other hand tools? that you noticed besides the tape measure?
The square.
Square. Yeah, because you need to mark a straight line on the board. So you have that triangular square I showed you at speed square. So they had those.
Notice the chalk line.
Chalk,
Yep.
yes, I didn't know if you noticed that because we hurried past the first part, but yeah, chalk line was used for the foundation. How about a pencil? So you don't normally consider a pencil a tool, but it is a tool. Anything else?
A hammer.
Yeah, a hand hammer. Because even though you nail with a nail gun, there's sometimes you can't get a nail gun. They're pretty bulky. You can't get it into little crannies, so you have to use a hammer. Anybody know what the tool's called? It wasn't in that show, but if you don't have room for even a hammer, you don't have swinging room, do you know the tool that you might use? They have a tool called a palm nailer. It fits in your palm. It sticks out about that much, and it has a little vibrator. It's electric, or it could be cordless too. And it vibrates and hits the nail, so you can get in a real small area and it'll knock nails in. I don't think there was one on that show. Good. You guys saw most of what was there, at least that I remember.
Sierra para ventana, para the window, Sierra.
Oh, el máquina para cortar el ventana.
Yeah.
Se llama un router.
Router para.
Oh yeah.
Or
Do
window.
you want me to spell those? I can spell those. So thank you, Esperanza. That's a good, that reminded me. Router comes from the word route. So I don't know. I don't know where they got that word. What else? Oh, nail gun. So those are the automatic nailers, and they're really handy. They cut down the time, saves your arms too. You know, oh, you can't see it, sorry. There, now you can see it. Router, nail gun, yeah. Anything else I said? Oh yeah, sheathing.
Joists.
Joist. Joist can be floor joist or ceiling joist, but we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about some more framing this morning. Sheathing. You know when you have a holder like on your belt and you put a knife in it, that holder is called a sheath. But I don't know how that transfers to sheathing. I don't know where a lot of our terms, the first people in our American heritage to use to frame carpenters were the English in New England. And so a lot of these carpentry terms are old English terms. Sheathings comes from most of them come from England. And we just haven't bothered to change a lot of them. Okay. How are you doing? Do you need a break?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's take just 5 minutes, a little bit longer, maybe 10 minutes at the most, and then we'll come back. And then we have another break at 11 or a little after 11 to do the breakout group again, like we did yesterday. So go ahead and use the bathroom and get something to eat or drink, and we'll be back in 5+ minutes, okay? 5-10 minutes. Monica, are you here?
Yeah, also you might want to stop recording at the break. I don't know if you want to pause it or no, you want to keep
No,
it No,
Oh.
okay,
I could pause it, I guess.
yeah, pause again.
So everybody saw them using tape measures in the video. So that's probably your most important tool as a carpenter. And so because it involves measurement, it also involves math, arithmetic. So we're going to review a little bit of that this morning. But there's actually, the tape measure is a pretty compact tool, and it carries a lot of information on it. And I'm going to show you, I got to share my screen. I'm going to show you that information. Whoop. Oh, what is that? I want to shut that off. Okay, does everybody see this? Does everybody see this tape measure?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So I went out in the backyard yesterday and took this picture for y'all. So it's got a lot of numbers and a lot of divisions. So there's the first thing I want you to notice is this hook on the end here. And can you see my picture still?
Yes.
I know it's small. I forgot to show you this, but this hook on the end goes in and out. It wiggles. It's not fixed. And that's because when you measure and hook something, it pulls that hook out. And when you're measuring an inside dimension, you're butting it, it pushes the hook in, and that compensates for the thickness of the hook so that it's the same number. So that's why this moves. So if you get a tape measure, know that it's supposed to move. And if it gets wrecked, then it won't work as well. It won't give you accurate measurements. So you got to have that little hook intact. So that means when you're using a tape measure, you never let it fly back like that, because that hook will hit the body and hemorrhage. So you always want to make sure your tape goes back slowly to the cartridge. Okay, so that's one thing, the hook. The second thing is look at this. Look at these calibrations. There's a set on top, right? And there's a set on the bottom. And then the numbers are different. Like from within the first foot, from 0 inches to 12 inches, they're all the same. 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch on up to 12. Then you'll notice when you get to 12, the tape splits. There's numbers on the bottom and on the bottom and on the top. So the top numbers stop at a foot, and then they go 1 again, 1 foot 1, 1 foot 2, 1 foot 3, all the way to 1 foot 11, and then 2 feet. So the top register, I'll write this on the board. We call this a register. The top register has feet in inches. The bottom register, you'll notice, just has inches. It goes 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way up to, this is a 25-foot tape, so it's 300 inches. And so you might ask, well, why does it have different registers on it? Well, because different times you'll need a different way of counting the numbers. So sometimes you'll be you'll be measuring siding and you'll yell it out to the cutter and he'll cut the siding at the right length and then give you the piece and you nail it up. If you call out a piece 250 inches and he's got to take it from different stacks of board, some are 12 feet long, some are 8 foot long, he's not going to know where 250 inches is. But if you say, oh, it's 6'8", then he'll go to the 8 foot stack because that's the closest number and he can cut it efficiently. So that's one of the reasons why you'd have two different registers. Sometimes say this 21 inches, sometimes you want to say a length is 21 inches. Sometimes you want to say it's 1 foot 9 inches. It just depends on, you know, how you're going to use that measurement. So that's the other thing. There's 2 registers and I'll write that on the board, like I said. The next thing is you see these numbers have different colors on them, like this 1 foot, 2 foot, they have that little black arrow. So every foot will be marked that way so you can find the feet quickly. Then you'll notice that there's a 16 that's in red. So these are called layout colors. And I'll explain that in a second. 16, it's multiples of 16 on the bottom. So the next one would be 32, which I don't have a picture of, but if you went down to 32, it would have a red outline or backdrop. Then the next one from 32 is 48. That would have red in back of it. Then 64, 96, so on. So it's got every foot and then every 16 inches marked off specially. Okay, so that's it for the tape measure. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So between 2 inches, right? Between the 2 and the 3. This is harder to see because it's got the clip in the way. You'll see if you counted these spaces, there would be 16 in an inch. So obviously each one's 1/16 of an inch, right?
Right.
So 2/16, 3/16, 4/16. Now with fractions, you can make an equivalent fraction. So if you have like 2/16, you can divide top number and bottom number by 2 and get 1/8. So 2/16 is the same as 1/8 in terms of quantity or length. So you wouldn't say 2/16, you would say 1/8. The only time you'd say 1/16, the next number would be 1/8 instead of 2/16. You always say the one with the larger denominator is the lower number, but we'll just say lower number. Then the next one after that is 3/16. So that you can't reduce that to an 8. So 1/16, 1/8, 3/16. The next one would be 4/16, but that you can divide by 2 also and get 2/8. And then you can divide that again and get 1/4. Yeah, whoever said that. So 1/16, 1/8. If this is really new to you and confusing, you might want to take your pencil and mark a little space line with 16 divisions. You could do that now. And then you could write the fraction for each one. Probably most of you will not have to do that. Although some of you may, if you're not from here, if you're from any other place in the world, except for England, you will have feet and inches, but some of you may come from a place that had metric system. So you'd have a meter, 3 feet about, and then you'd have millimeters and centimeters. So it'd be a different number system. So this foot and inches may be new to a few of you. Anyway, 1/16, 1/8, 3/16, 1/4. This was 4/16 or a quarter, so this would be 5/16. Can't reduce that, so you call that 5/16. Next one is 6/16, but that will reduce down to 3/8. Won't go to quarters. So 3/8, and then this one is 3/8 is 6/16, so this would be 7/16. Again, that's its own name again. And then 8/16 is a half.
Half inch.
And then a half is 8/16, so the next one would be 9/16. Again, that has no other name. Then you get to 10/16, which you could call 5/8. That won't go to quarter, but it will go to eighths. Next one would be 11/16. That's the only name for it. And then 12/16 would be 3/4. And then the next one after 12/16 or 3/4 would be 13/16, which is what it's called. And then this 14/16 would be 7/8. And then the last one would be 15/16. So 1/16, 1/8, 3/16, 1/4, 5/16, 3/8, 7/16, half, 9/16, 5/8. This is so big, I don't even recognize them. 5/8, 11/16, 3/4, 13/16, 7/8, 15/16. Everybody got that?
Yes.
Now, I call these carpenter's fractions. I made up the name. Maybe somebody else in the universe uses that name. I haven't heard it. I can't get a patent on it. But I call these carpenter's fractions because they're all multiples of 1/16. So in fact, they're all going to be, on this tape measure, they're all going to be a 16th, some number of 16ths, some number of eighths, some number of quarters, or some number of halves, and that's it. When you're doing carpentry, you may divide up a wall and it's got 5 windows. And so when you divide by 5, you won't get a 16th or an eighth or a quarter or a half. You'll get a weird number, maybe a fifth. So you can't measure a fifth. You can only measure something in terms of fractions. You can only measure something that's a 16th or an eighth or a quarter or a half. So you'll have to change other fractions to carpenter's fractions. A lot of fractions aren't carpenter. 2/7 is not a carpenter's fraction because you can't find it on your tape measure. So we may or may not show you how to go from another fraction to a carpenter's fraction. It depends on, it's pretty sophisticated. We'll see if we get to it. But when you're measuring something, you stick this on the end of a piece of wood, a piece of lumber, a joist, and then you'll measure it to the nearest inch. Say it's, foot, say it's 16 feet, and you want to cut it, it's an 18-foot piece, and you want to cut it at 16 foot 7. 16 foot 7.25 inches. You'll have to know where the quarter is on your tape measure to mark it. So after a while, this just is obvious to carpenters, but when you're beginning, you have to think about it. So they have made lines different lengths on this register, as you'll notice. So the biggest line will be in the middle, 1/2 inch. The next longest line will be half of that, which is a 1/4 inch, or on this side, 3/4 inch. The next longest line will be eighths. So the different lines, the different lengths do have longer lines. That's to help you out. You see that? You see how the length will help you out? Half, eighth, quarter, eighth. So when you're measuring to cut something, or you're measuring to see what it is, you'll have to know the fractions of an inch to mark it. If the plan says 0 feet, 2 3/4 inches, you'll go to the 2 and you'll go over to the 3/4 mark here, and that's where you'd make your mark. Anybody not, everybody online here? For some of you, this is obvious, you already know it. And for those of you who are new, let me know if it's, if you need more time. But if getting these in order takes more time, then just, I'll put this file, I haven't yet, I'll put this picture in your file section in your Canvas platform. You know, where you looked up announcements to find the Zoom recording. Go down from that, there's a thing that says file, and I'll file that in there. So you can look at this or the picture if you drew a drawing today, and just, you know, just keep looking at that picture and familiarizing yourself. Okay, we can probably go on, yeah? So, remember at the beginning of class, I said that, and we saw that little video, the animated video, and it said that framing was just various systems of members and their headers, you know, sticks of lumber, and then they're connected all by a top and bottom piece. So that goes for floor frames and wall frames and ceiling frames and rafter frames, right? Remember that discussion? So they're all put on the they're all spaced evenly. Remember we talked about that? And if you notice in the movie, all of the studs or joists are all spaced evenly.
Yeah.
That's called a layout. The spacing.
The layout.
Yeah, the spacing of studs on a wall or joists on a floor. And I'll show you pictures of this in a second, so don't worry about visualizing it. They all go on a layout. And in construction, we use 3 layouts. One that's 16 inches on center. So the center of each joist for the floor or each stud for the wall is 16 inches apart. Or we use a 24-inch center. That's why these are marked. Now you know why, they're for layout. And there's another one. See this little dot here? It's actually a diamond, but you can't see it after the 19. That's a third kind of layout, which is a relatively new thing, and a lot of people don't use it, so we won't discuss it. So mainly 2 layouts, 16 on center, they say, and I'll write that on the board for you. 16-inch on center or 24-inch on center. And on your blueprints, that's how they'll say. They'll say this many joists, 2x8s at 16 inches on center or 24-inch on center. Okay, so we're going to go back to that because we're going to actually study layout in more depth. But let's do some math with those numbers.
So real quick, Patrick, we're assuming that you're using 2x4s.
Yes. Okay. So we'll get to that with the layout, but 16 is for 2x4s. 2x4 walls have to be 16 on center. If you want to go 2x24, you have to go to 2x6s. But in joists, which are well, if they were 2x4 joists, you'd have to go 16. But usually joists are bigger than 2x4 nowadays. They're 2x6 are bigger, then they're all going to be 24 on center. But we'll look more at that. So let me show you, let me do a little math with you here. So everybody can see this, yes?
Yes.
Okay, what did I say I was going to write?
You said you were going to do some math.
Yeah, but before that, I was going to write on center. I was going to write on the board.
You're going to write the 2 layouts?
The layouts.
Oh,
yeah,
register.
something about the layouts.
Yeah, register. So not all carpenters use this word. I use it because I'm a teacher. So when I teach, I only teach vocabulary that you need to know on a job site. The book has all kinds of distinctions that nobody cares about. You don't need to use it. But if you're looking at a tape and somebody asks you, you know, which set of numbers are you looking at? The word register cuts right through. They say, well, I'm looking at the top register or I'm looking at the bottom register. So, you know, it could be a useful word. The register, that's tape numbers, are each of them is a register, top and bottom. Okay. The other word was on center. And it's sometimes abbreviated OC. On plans, on blueprints, you'll see OC, 16 OC.
I can't see it due to the reflection of the sun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So how would you use the word register on a job site? Would you say like the top register and the bottom register, or?
Yeah, you probably wouldn't use it very much, but I don't think a lot of carpenters use it, but that's technically what you could, if a carpenter was talking to you and they'd say, well, are you talking about the top row of numbers or the bottom row of numbers? They might say it that way. So it's not used a lot. So, but some people like to know everything. So for them, I throw out register. It's not a fun, it's a funny word for that, right? You don't think of that as what a register is. So on center, and then you can see that now, right? The 16-inch on center, 24-inch on center, that kind of thing. So, so in construction and framing, what you might have to do with numbers, with lengths, is add them or subtract them. So say you've got a long plank, the lumberyard delivers a 16-foot 2x8, and you want to know if you can get 2 pieces of wood you need from the plans, you know, an 8-foot piece and or a 7-foot something piece and a 8-foot something piece, and you want to add them together to make sure it doesn't come under 16. I mean, over 16. You have to know how to add those 2 numbers, right? So, where'd my black pen go? Oh, here it is. Can you all see this? Can you see the number?
Yes.
Okay. So if you were going to add those, like somebody gave you that list or it was on a test that way, typically in the way we're taught adding numbers and fractions is you would put them in a column, right? So here's another important word to know in life. Column and row. So a column is a list of figures or words up and down, right? Some of you know this. A row is going the other way. So, you know, if you're doing business and you have a spreadsheet, you have to know the difference between column and row because you're going to enter information using those 2 features of it. So it's just a good general word in English to know. A column goes up and down, a column of things, and a row is across. It's really great when you're trying to point out something to people on a table. Otherwise, it's kind of hopeless. So this is given to you as a row, but we typically solve math as a column. So we would say 3'3" plus 4'4", right? Isn't that how we learned it? Makes it easier because you have to line up the units anyway. So that's why they do it. Now you've all added in elementary school, I assume, just regular numbers. maybe even decimal numbers in a column, but you may not have added feet and inches in a column because that's kind of peculiar to building. So, but it has the same, it works the same way as a decimal system. So you always add the far right units first in any system. So these would be inches. So 3 inches and 4 inches is 7 inches, yes? And then we can go to the foot, the next units, and 3 feet and 4 feet make 7 feet. So that's going to be 7 feet, 7 feet 7. Does everybody see that? It's pretty standard. Okay, can I erase that?
Yes.
Okay.
That's particularly helpful when it comes to even building trusses, because
Yeah.
you have to know the span
Yes.
of, well, like the top cord lengths, and if something's short or if something's not fitting, and you have to figure out
Yeah.
which of the boards is too big. Because yeah, it needs to fit within a criteria of.
Hold on 1 second. Hello? Yes. Oh, I can't answer right now. Okay, sorry, I'm getting a delivery, so I have to. When you do stuff at home. So, yeah, so, right, trusses, that's a great example, good real life example. If you worked at a truss factory, but also on a construction site, you'll always be adding and subtracting lengths. So that's an easy one. I'm going to do a subtraction one, and then I'm going to give you a couple of problems to do yourself.
So before we move on, quick question. Sorry. Just please remind me. Can you show me on the scale, which one you call register and which one you call on center? I'm just confused with those
The
ones.
register is on the tape measure itself. That's the row of numbers and lines on the top. There's 2 sets. One that was just inches on the bottom, and on the top it was feet and inches. Do you remember that?
So you're talking about a 1 foot, 2 foot, that's called register, or those between them, the small one without
the whole thing's called a register.
Oh, the whole thing called a register.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got a top one that goes all the way across the tape, and then you've got a bottom one. Good question.
Bottom one is different by the top one. Is it different? But it's same, huh?
Well, do you have a picture of a tape or a tape with you?
No,
Okay,
right.
I'll go over
I've got one.
If I don't do it later today, I'll do it next week, but I'll go over that again.
Okay.
But the on center is how the studs are actually put together, or the joists are put together. We're going to go over that, but that's in the
Centimeter calls the on center, those centimeters, the 16 ones, those called OC?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. The layout is on center is what they call the layout. And so the 16 or 24, and those are marked on the tape. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do a subtraction real quick. And what do I have? 7'9" minus 3'5". Okay, now, same thing. You're going to subtract, so you can subtract 5 from 9. Okay, no problem. Subtract 3 from 7, no problem. Now, here's where does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to do some problems where it's not going to be quite so simple. And of course, I'm going to erase. Can I erase that? Sure. Of course, some of you know how to do this all together and more sophisticated. So just bear with me for those of us who need a little more help. So I'm going to add one where sorry, I have to keep looking at the page, but I'm not smart enough to remember this stuff. Everybody see that problem okay?
Yes.
So here, we're gonna add, and we're gonna add, and we get 15. 14 foot, 15 inches. So just like you can't say 10 point, you can't do it in decimal because it's different, but you wouldn't express inches over 12. Once an inch gets to 12, then you have to make that a foot and then just talk about the inches that are left. So this has, in 15, you have 12 inches and then 3 more, right? 3 and 12 makes 15. So that should actually be, you can look at it like that. And then this 12 becomes 1 foot. So that adds to the 14, it makes that 15. And then you just have 3 on that side. You see that? If it's over 12, you're gonna take 12 out of it, make a foot, add it to the foot side, and then just have what's left for inches.
Right.
The tape measure that you showed, and I've got one as well. It after 12 inches, it does that in red.
Right.
Red color.
Top register goes feet and inches, the bottom stays single. Yeah. So that's, most of you know that from, you know, it's the same with decimals, the same thing you get. If it's over 10, you have to go add the 10 ones, the 10 column, and whatever is left you have as a 1 unit. Now, we'll do a subtraction one like that, where you have to carry or borrow. It's called carry over when you add, and it's called borrowing when you okay, so here we have the inches is bigger on the bottom, so you can't subtract it from the top inches. But the top number is obviously bigger than the bottom number, so there's going to be a way to do it. There has to be a way to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow 1 foot from the 8, make it 7. We're going to take that foot and make it into 12 inches. So we're going to take 1 foot from here, make it 12 inches. That makes this 7. And we're going to add it to the 2 that was already there. Wait a second. What am I doing here? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you are.
So then we have 14. So you're going to have 7 foot 14 inches minus 6 foot 4. So you can have more than 12 when you're carrying and doing the math. That's okay to do it then. Because you have to, since 4 is bigger than 2, you're going to have to make this 2 bigger. So you borrow a whole foot, so 12. So it'll be over 12. That's what you're doing.
So when you borrow from the bigger number, you just add them?
When you borrow from the bigger number, you reduce that number because you took a foot out of it.
So we convert foot into inches, 12 inches, and you plus the base number with
yes,
the
exactly.
inch centimeter.
Yeah, you take the 12 that you just got and you add it to what was originally there, the 2.
Okay.
And then you get 14. So you haven't changed the quantity, you're just writing it in a different way. And then you can subtract, you've got 14 now, that's bigger than 4, so I can subtract and I'll get a 10. And the 8 is now a 7, and if I subtract 6, I get a 1. Yeah.
So it's 1 foot 10 inches.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if this is new for you and it's a little sketchy, just make up problems on your own and just do the math and see. We have if some of you are going into framing or construction as a career and you take the credit class at City College, we have a whole class on math. It's called Measuring and Calculating. I think we'll offer it in spring next year. And, you know, we go over this ad nauseum. We go over this till everybody gets it, and we keep doing different kinds of math. There's multiplying and dividing also. That's much more complicated, but we do all of that in that class. And it's a math classes are usually hell. Most people don't like them. That's why they do poorly in them. But I guarantee you'll like my class because there's no pressure. We just go over stuff. The better students help the less skilled students, and we get through it. So I think it's a good class. Trade math classes can be a real bitch, but this one's okay. Okay, so we're getting near let's go a little bit more, Annika, before we break out, okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
So I told you that frames, whether they're floor frames or wall frames or ceiling frames or rafter frames, have equally spaced members, right? Why are they equally spaced, and why are they equally spaced the distance they are? Anybody got a clue?
For structure purposes?
Pressure?
Structure?
Structure. Yeah. So, okay, good. So they bear weight. If you have a single floor, you have the weight of the ceiling and the roof that's on the walls. So those walls have to be able to support that weight. If you have more stories, they really have to support that weight. So structurally, that's the engineers have figured that out. And they say 2x4s, if you use those, if you have a 16-inch space, that'll bear any kind of weight above. If you use 2x6s, you can spread that out a little bit because they're wider boards, and that'll have the weight. There's another reason. Can anybody think of another one? Why did they pick, you suppose, 16 instead of 15 or 17? I don't expect you to have an answer, but you never know.
It's even?
What?
Is it because it's even?
Yeah, even in a special way. Yeah.
Because you have to use that I don't know, the seating.
Yeah, if you did 15 and 17, it'd be miserable to try to do the math. But 16 is a number, but there's an even more special reason. When they were creating modern construction, modern framing, they said, okay, so we're going to cover that with plywood or sheetrock on the inside. Yeah. Before they had to sheathe everything, they still had to do sheetrock. Sheathing the whole wall is a fairly new thing because of size. We've learned that seismic earthquakes won't wreck a house if you have a lot of sheathing holding it together. But they said, okay, so carpenters have to carry these sheets. They have to carry them from the lumberyard, and they have to carry them around the site. And so they can't be too wide because a normal man has to stretch his hands, and a woman, but a woman will have problems if they're small. But their reach has to be able to get around a length. And they said, well, 4 feet's a good length for people to be able to hold onto a piece of plywood. So they made them 4 feet wide, and 4 feet's also a multiple of 16. 16 goes into 4 foot evenly. So they said, well, let's make the space is 16, and then we can put 4 foot wide plywood on those, and it'll hit right where the studs are. So part of it was the convenience for carpenters to be able to use the material. So almost everything in building is either a multiple of 16 or a multiple of 24. If you have a 4 foot piece of plywood like they were putting on in the video, it covered 4 studs, 3 stud bays. If they used 2 foot on center, it'd cover two 2 foot bays or 3 2 foot studs, 24-inch 2x6 studs. Okay, and yeah, we're just about done. So let's talk about on center. And let me share the screen one more time here. Oh, darn, I keep. Yeah, I don't have it there. Of course not. That would be where. Are you kidding? Well, I don't have it on here. I'll do it on the board. Let's do it that way. I have a handout which I will put. Well, you know what? I wonder if I put it in the file. Hold on one second here, folks.
Hi, teacher. I'm back. I was having problem with my Wi-Fi because my daughter was in class.
Okay.
And we couldn't have the two devices connected. I'm sorry I missed like the whole class.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have it. So the layout, the on center, Jakub. Okay. So here's a wall looking at it straight on, like we saw in the movie, right? We'll do a wall. We're going to talk about floor systems first, but a wall is easy to explain. So this is the bottom plate. These are called studs. And I'll have a picture of a wall frame in your file for next time. So so it'll have all these words on it also. So in a wall, there's basically a bottom plate, studs, and a top plate. And then where you have window and door openings, they have a little extra framing. We'll do that next time. I'll show you that wall with that in it and talk about the terms for that. Right now, I'm just trying to do layout. So we're just going to finish this up quickly. So this is looking at the wall straight ahead. If you look down at this wall from the top, it would look like this, okay? So that's called a plan view. Anytime you see the word plan view, it means looking from above. On a set of blueprints, many of the plans, the floor plan, the site plan, are from above. But others are looking straight on, framing plan, elevations. So you have those two types of views. So this is a planned view of a wall. And when you show something like a board coming up, you put an X in it. So that means that board's coming in this direction. The board's coming up, the stud. So it'll have an X in it. That's what that means. Everybody get that? So these studs will be, say this is 2x4, okay? Center to center or on center equals center to center equals left to left equals right to right. Okay, So this layout is these studs are 16-inch on center. Yeah, that's the layout. So what that means is this from center of one stud to the center of the next stud is 16 inches. However, when you go to build a wall, you can't mark the center of the stud because that stud's going to be against the plate covering that line. So you won't know where to put it. So you always mark the left of the stud. But you're just going 3/4 of an inch from the center to the left of the stud. So it's also 16 on center. Left edge of the stud to the left edge of the next stud is also 16 on center. For that matter, the right edge of the stud to the right edge of the next stud is also 16. See? So it's the left hand that you're actually going to lay out when you mark a board. You're going to, here's your plate. When the stud goes to the right of this, you're going to put a line and you're going to put an X. So you put the stud covering the X right up to the line so you can see the line, so you know where the stud goes. So you're going to mark everything on the left side of the stud, even though it's called center to center layout, on center, center to center, it also means the same as left-hand side to left-hand side. Does everybody get that? I'll repeat it as when we get to the wall area, but it's the same for floor systems. Layouts are the same in every system. So Jakub, that's what a on-center layout means. It means the center of the spacing is 16 inches. But the way we actually manually frame the wall, when the boards are on the ground and you're nailing it, mark the left side and put an X to the right, and we put that stud covering the X right up to the line, and then we nail it.
So those X means those what do you call that? The frame, like the board.
Yeah, on a blueprint, the X marks the when you see the cross section of something. You look at it from above. You're looking at these studs, so you're looking at the end of it. When you see an end of something, they put an X to designate that.
Okay.
But it also is used, you know, when you're a carpenter and you're laying out, you're going to take your pencil, you're going to measure to that line where the stud is. You're going to draw a line with your speed square with your pencil, and then you're going to put an X to the right of that with your pencil.
Okay.
So it'll look like this. And then when you get all those marked across, then you're going to nail them all together. I'll try to get a video that shows that for the next time. Actually, it was in that video today, but because we jumped around, you may not have seen it. So I'll pinpoint that in a future video to know how you do it. Because that's, once you get that, it applies to all the systems, the floor system, the ceiling system, and the rafter system. So
I'm just confused with the shed. Is it those 4x4? I mean, I don't know the size. Is it that one or the one, the long thing, the long wood piece?
This right here. Ask it again. Did we lose a person? Who was just asking the question?
Sorry, my internet just. So the X, I was asking the X thing. I just want to know the picture. Which one is it? Is it the longwood, that one you call the shred, or the
this picture here?
No, he means a 2x6.
Okay, this is the plate. This is this piece right here, or this piece. Let's call it plate. That's what you're going to mark because the studs go into that plate. They nail into it. So this is a plate. This is the side view of the plate. This is the plate as you're going to, you know, draw it and hammer it. So this is the plate, and then these are the studs. Stud here, and this is the end view of the stud. Looking from the top, you would just see that, the end of the stud. Does that answer it?
Yep.
So we're
Sorry.
gonna go through each of these systems: floor system, wall system, ceiling system, rafter, between now and the end of the class. And I'll repeat the stuff on layout, and if you just kind of barely get it now, it'll get clearer as we go. This is the first time you've been exposed to it. I have to start somewhere. So don't worry about it if you don't have it perfectly. It'll gradually make sense more and more. Okay. The important thing is realizing that all the wall systems have spacing, required spacing, and then you have to figure out what that means and how you mark it. So the plans say 60 on center. That doesn't mean much, but when you go to market, when you're going to nail the wall together, you have to know how to mark it. So there's different stages of what you learn. So is everybody okay with this so far? You don't have to perfect it or master it, especially you new people, because this is all new. But just so you have a little bit of an idea, we can let it go today and pick it up next week. So
sometime.
Yeah. Obviously, those of you who work in this field know this already, but and you guys have been really helpful with the technology. You and Monica steering me along here. That's great because you guys, especially, well, Monica, but also you guys, you young guys are really born into technology. But also, if some of you have experience in carpentry, and sometimes you can think about it more clear than I do, because I've been doing this for 50 years. So, I have to go back and say, well, how would you say that? Because it's so automatic for me. So some of you guys can interpret what I say. You can say, maybe it'd be better to say it this way or draw it this way, or could you draw it this way? That's fine. I don't mind you helping me teach. This is a collaborative, we're all in this together. So, I probably know more about construction than any single person here. That stands to reason, but you guys have a young person's viewpoint or a beginner's viewpoint, and that's valuable to me. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna just go on because this won't be. And Monica, do you have any idea what you're gonna do with the? Are you relying on me to give you an idea of what you're gonna do at break?
In the breakout rooms, no. I think I'm going to go over some of that vocabulary and a little bit of the framing math again with them, the construction math, and then take some questions if they have any questions in my group. That's what we're going to work on.
Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to try one group today and see how that works.
Okay.
I think
right, when it's,
and I won't I won't do anything that we haven't already done, so your group doesn't miss out. We'll just do the same thing. We'll go over some of that stuff.
Okay, I have a quick question for you about sorry to interrupt.
No.
So when we're in school and we learn about rulers, one side or the top side has inches and the bottom side has centimeters, right? Like in school. So a tape measure just has inches or just has centimeters, right? Like the tape measure here in the United States, we use just inches and feet.
Yes, but they do make, and I have one, I'll bring it. I don't have it, it's down in the garage in my toolbox. They do make one with centimeters on one side and inches on the other. And that's a really valuable tape to have for people that are coming from a place that uses metric, because then they can compare them and use them. It helps them learn. Yeah, they make a tape.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Yakub. Maybe Yakub might be kind of more accustomed to seeing centimeters on a measurements.
Well,
so I don't know if that's.
Well, that's a good question. How many, Yakub, do you come from a culture that uses, have you used centimeter tapes in your past? Yakub?
Yes.
Have you used tape measures or rulers with centimeters in the past? Is that what you're
Yes, I did. I usually do because we have a rug shop.
Yeah.
We go inch by inch, some customer requires we need 9 by 12.4. So we exactly measure that thing and we bring them. So
yeah.
The inches I know. After the inches, I was confused. The
Right.
16.
So I'll bring the tape that's got both and show you that. That might be something you want to get as a transition. And anybody else have a past where you use metric system, centimeters instead of inches?
In Mexico, they use metric system.
Yes. Okay. So I'll show you that too.
I
I'll
have
show
to
you
use
that double tape. You know, metric, they use fractions. There's several types of fractions. There's a common fraction like 1/2, 1/2, like we've been doing. There's a decimal fraction, 1.5, right? And then there's a percentage, which is also a fraction. So when you use a metric, you use a decimal fraction. So instead of 1 foot 6 inches, you'd use 1.5, 1.5 feet. So that's a whole nother way of looking at it. So we can talk more about that. You know, when I teach, I assume most of you will stay in Santa Barbara because you're already here and you'll work here, but that's not really true. Some of you that are young may marry someone, may go on a vacation and fall in love with someone somewhere else in the country and move there. All of a sudden, you're no longer in Southern California, you're in Maine, and there's slight variations in how they build in Maine. So I mention, every once in a while I'll say, well, in sunny climates like us, we do this, but if you're up north, anywhere where it's cold, you'll do something slightly different. So I don't mind going over differences. It's good for you guys to realize there's a variation in the world and even in the country. So that's good for you to know because you may not stay here. There's all kinds of reasons why we go places. And okay, so
question. Somebody had a question. Carla or Francisco? Question.
It was me. I think. Well, it was just to kind of emphasize, I guess, what Patrick was saying. Like, Texas doesn't normally get the snow that they got this year, and their roofs weren't built according to that. They didn't have a slope. They didn't have an angle. It just piled up the snow until it caved in.
Yeah. Well, that's where you had that house that had the flat roof, was in Texas. Yeah, you know, there's more of those in Texas and New Mexico than here, but yeah.
No, it was here. It was in Santa Maria.
Oh, okay.
They've got a bunch of those types of stucco houses.
Yeah. But so what was the point you were making? I'm sorry.
Oh, that in different, in different locations, different climates, different terrains, like the houses are built according to that rather than just an aesthetic.
You're absolutely right. And we'll mention that along the way. Like that flat parapet, Alamo style, do they call it? I don't know. They might call it the Alamo style. Maybe the Alamo in Texas. Yeah, in Texas had a roof like that. But yeah, you're right. That's bad for snow because it just lays on the roof, and then that's when the leaks come and water stays. You're right. So it's mostly in southern climates where they have that roof. Now you're right. Texas is going to have to change their architecture. Apparently, well, not Texas. All of us are going to have to change our architecture. So that's a whole nother topic. But it really is true. The slopes of roof. If you go to De La Guerra Plaza in Santa Barbara, you know, downtown, that's a real old Mexican building. The De La Guerras were the early Mexican family. Well, they might have even been Spanish. I don't know when they came up. But if you look at the overhangs, they have hip roofs with huge overhangs because in Mexico where they were, it rained a lot. And so they had a big overhang. Doesn't rain that much here, so we don't have overhangs like that. So you really do see the variation there. Back to the group. Monica. Are you here or did you take
I'm here.
Oh yeah. So how do we break out? Do we need to name the groups again?
Well, if you're gonna keep everybody minus my group, you can just create one breakout room and send us, and then everyone else can stay here if you're gonna do one big group.
Okay.
If you want to do so, go to breakout rooms and just.
So give me the names for your room.
Okay, you're gonna choose me and Esperanza. Are you still here, Esperanza?
But hold
and
on.
Fernando.
Wait, hold on.
Sorry, go to
Okay.
breakout rooms.
Esperanza and you next.
And Fernando Mendoza.
Okay.
Anybody else want to come today to work on vocabulary or construction math with us? Israel saying yeah.
Israel, is he saying
Uh-huh.
yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, this is day by day. So we're going to be today doing the same thing anyway. So
Yeah, I think also like it's good to go, like some people have like more experience with math and using math in everyday life, and a lot of people don't ever use it. So it might be a good idea to review it slowly if you guys want to with me. Anybody who needs it, I can help.
we'll do that too. Yeah.
Okay.
You're totally right. And we'll keep going over the math each session too.
Okay, that's good for now. Thank you.
Okay. So I will open all rooms.
Thank you. See you in about half an hour.
Okay. She disappeared off the face of the planet. Okay. So let me get and I don't have you all, well, I'll go back to the gallery view so I can see all of you. So of you 15 or so, would anybody like a little more working with the math, the adding and subtracting feet and inches? Anybody would like to see more of that?
Yeah, let's see more of that.
Okay, anybody else? Gerardo? Yasmin, was that you that? Okay. Jakob, was that you? You're muted. You want to do some?
Yeah, I was asking if I could.
Okay, and Hector? Oh, Hector.
Yeah.
Hector's on the phone, so you won't be able to see it anyway. You can see it in the recording, right?